been nearly a year since I started learning Japanese and about 7 months of using the immersion method. For those who don't know what I mean by immersion, I basically just mean engaging in native Japanese content in only Japanese. This has been my primary method for learning the language so far, and that, plus some other supplementary stuff like Anki, has led to some pretty good results, at least in terms of understanding the language. For the last few months, I've basically spent all my time reading and listening, which has been great as my comprehension of Japanese has increased greatly since I started. However, throughout the journey so far, I spent pretty much no time speaking. Frankly, speaking was just not initially one of my goals in learning the language. I considered it a cool bonus to my main goal, which was to understand Japanese content without subtitles because I thought it would be cool. But recently, I was reached out to by italki, who wanted to give me an opportunity to actually try out speaking Japanese. If you don't know what italki is a language learning platform that hosts one-on-one customized language lessons with high-quality native teachers and tutors. There's more than 150 languages available on the platform, including Japanese of course, and you pay per lesson, so you don't need to worry about forking out a ton of money for something you're uncertain about. Lessons can also be booked for as low as $5, which on top of the per lesson paying model makes it much easier to start than many other alternatives. In this video, I'm going to be using italki to not only have conversations with natives, but also for some other speaking practices that are different from just conversation practice. If you want to try out italki for yourself, they were kind enough to give me the promo code MIKUMINO as shown on the screen that gives the first 50 people to sign up $5 off their first lesson of $10 or more. I've left the promo code and link in the description, so do check it out if this interests you. Once again, thank you italki for sponsoring this video. Now, what did I mean by other speaking practice that's not conversational? Well, an area of Japanese that ends in oddly heated debates is pitch accent. If you don't know what pitch accent is, it's basically just a component of the language's pronunciation, specifically the changes and variation of pitch throughout the mora. Pitch accent can be a huge factor in making someone's pronunciation sound more or less correct. Despite being something that most regular classes won't teach you, it is something that native speakers are at least subconsciously aware of and can greatly aid in the understandability of your speech. While pitch is only one part of pronunciation, many advanced learners of the language have gone on about how it's one of the harder components to nail down. And while speaking was not initially a priority of mine, for some reason, the idea of good pronunciation just fascinated me. So I did some digging, watched a few videos on pronunciation and pitch, of which I will also link down below if you want more details, and ended up doing perception tests on kotsu. After getting used to that, the next step was corrected reading. Corrected reading is basically sitting with a native and reading something in Japanese while having them correct your pitch mistakes live. Admittedly, I was kind of spooked by the sound of it. You're telling me people other than my YouTube comments are gonna tell me I'm wrong? Yes. It's actually quite helpful, and probably one of the best exercises you can do after the perception tests, and thus, I booked my first italki lesson. So for my first lesson with italki, I wanted to find someone who had a comfortable grasp with the mechanics of pitch accent. In addition, I also thought someone who had some familiarity with input-based learning methods would be a nice bonus, as they might be more understanding to my difference in hours between my reading and listening and my speaking. Well, luckily, I came across Yamaguchi-sensei, who not only specializes in pitch accent, but also even talked about the idea of input and output along with popular pronunciation practices in the community like shadowing. Needless to say, my interest was piqued, so I reached out to her to iron out some of the details of our lesson. For the lesson, I decided to read as much as I could of the first chapter of Bloom Into You. Would you believe it? The way the session was structured was that I would read through a whole page without any interruptions, and then I would go through it once more, bubble by bubble, with her correcting my mistakes after each one. When she corrected me, she would also explain the pitch pattern it was supposed to be, as well as actually drawing out a pitch graph of the word. 新しい制服にも。
いは下がります。
こ
うなります。新しい制服にも。
新しい制服にも。Even though I made a ton of mistakes, I never really felt stressed during the session since Yamaguchi-sensei was so patient with me. Also, sometimes she would switch to English for a few words and her accent is like amazing, so that was also really cool.
Voiceless consonant, voiceless consonant.
After doing a corrected reading session, I can totally see why it's recommended after getting your perception of pitch accent bolstered through the minimal pairs test. The minimal pairs test does a good job of training your ears to hear pitch, and once you're able to hear it, you're naturally going to get better at accepting the feedback and correcting your pitch to suit. So in summary, corrected reading good, Yamaguchi-sensei also good, I highly recommend. For the next lesson, I kind of just wanted to have fun and try my best to speak conversationally with a native Japanese speaker. Fortunately, I am horrible at holding a conversation with someone without some sort of common interest among us. Thankfully, searching for specific interests was quite easy, and I was able to find Yuuki-sensei. Yuuki-sensei stood out to me because his profile was very enthusiastically written with the claim that he has seen over 1,000 anime titles and read a bunch of manga. As someone who's only tracked a measly 138 anime and 5 manga, I was intrigued. So I then booked my lesson with Yuuki-sensei, and I gotta say he was as fun to talk to as I was expecting from his profile.
ワイフはワイフ。嫁は 本当に ?OK。じゃあ、どんな子がタイプ or your taste ですか？ Like outfit, like the black long hair.
The lesson ended up being almost an hour long, and while I had a lot of fun talking to Yuuki-sensei, me trying to speak Japanese in the lesson made me very aware of the gap between my listening and my speaking. Like with Yamaguchi-sensei, I had basically no issues understanding Yuuki-sensei when he spoke Japanese, but when it came to responding, I think I was only able to smoothly construct a few sentences, and the rest felt more like I was cobbling various words I knew together to form a sentence. One part of the lesson in particular that made me very aware of that was when we were talking about coffee. I was able to understand most of what he said to me, but I feel like my responses came out pretty sloppy and slowly. I would show you, but unfortunately, I don't actually have any of the audio of me speaking in the lesson because I'm stupid and apparently don't know how to use OBS. But I still do have his audio, so here's some of that.
エスプレッソマシーンも持ってるんですか？高いやつ？うん。本当にすごいね。うん。すごいね。1日に何杯エスプレッソを飲みますか？好きなコーヒーの豆は何ですか？エチオピア。なるほど、なるほど。うん。I think this is more complicated, but you know, maybe you will know. 浅入りと深入り。どっちが好きですか？
After a little over 200 hours of listening and reading, my speaking is about where I expected it to be, that being not very good. I think just doing what I've been doing so far and maybe doing some other forms of output practice in general, like maybe writing, would be good for now. Overall, I really enjoyed the lessons provided to me by italki. Corrected reading is something I can see myself coming back to a lot, and I personally just found both sessions really fun to do. If you're interested in checking out italki yourself, you can find the relevant links down in the description. Once again, you can use the promo code MIKUMINO to get $5 off your first lesson of $10 or more. Thank you once again to italki for sponsoring this video.